Hello, and welcome back to Shatter Our Souls with Novaria, and welcome back to yet another Metroid Monday for the Canadians out there. Happy Thanksgiving. Now, I'm approaching today's video with a little bit more of a in-game informational cycle rather than a what you might call a day-to-day theoretical perspective. And I think that's a fair statement given that today poses a little bit more of a question or a quest comparatively to prior videos. So, the aspect of today's video, or of today, is going to be to get to the end of Dark Agon Wastes and defeat the first region boss, Amorbus. Now, Amorbus is what would be called a opportunity predator. The creature itself hides under the sand for unsuspecting prey and proceeds to effectively just have lunch. Predators of opportunity exist throughout nature. A lot of them tend to be like vultures, for example, which are perhaps not the best. Um, they're not the best example. Anglerfish would be an opportunity-based predator. Only when their prey gets close enough for them to actually get it do they begin to, or do they strike. Now, I bring this up because Amorbus, in light version of Agon Wastes, has its own, shall we say, it's still treated as a threat in the light world. The small little worm monsters that spit acid at you and are attacked from one end or the other actually are Amorbus in a, shall we say, a weaker state. And I like this aspect about it. Because if I were to be as open and honest about it as possible, the fact that there is the option and the ability to see what's going on in both worlds adds context. And it is something that is often overlooked in this series. Well, to a degree, in most games. Um, so the second piece of this is the key hunt. So in Metroid Prime 2, there's a total of 4 key hunts. There is the Dark Agon Wastes key, Dark Torvus Bog keys. There are the keys to the Ing Hive and the Sky Temple keys. And to be honest, it's something that I've always been on the fence about. In prior installments of Metroid series as a whole, you needed to be able to access different areas through different upgrades. Looking at Prime 1, you needed the Morph Ball before you could get the Boost Ball, before you could get so on and so forth. There was a sequence of events that is expected of a playthrough. And Prime 2 has much the same mentality. It has an expected sequence of events, but the expected sequence of events is also given a secondary wall, shall we say, in the form of these keys. You need all the keys to get through, whether or not you have all the upgrades to access the final boss of that region. In this way, you're being told or shown that taking your time is important. Actually soaking in the details, taking in or trying every path, making sure everything that you possibly can gets used to its fullest. And I do like this aspect of Prime 2. The other thing I've seen recently that comes up with this is one of the number one criticisms of the Prime trilogy, and that is the endgame MacGuffin hunt. The artifacts, the Sky Temple keys, and the batteries in Prime 3. And a lot of people see it as padding. However, recently I kind of came across the mentality of it being like New Game Plus. You effectively have access to the entire world, collecting what upgrades you have left as a last hurrah. It provides you, the player, the opportunity to actually go through the world as the powerhouse that Samus is expected to be within the franchise, without requiring Samus to be, how do I put this? You get to play and finish the last of your upgrades and MacGuffin hunts, experience the full world of Talon Ford, Aether, through the lens of Samus at full strength, which is a very different experience than your first run through the game. I like and dislike this mentality because getting all of the upgrades is half the battle, to be sure. The other half of the battle is actually getting everything. And that seems kind of simplistic in nature, but having access to the entire world, not putting two and two together, gets you no closer to the final boss than battling, than effectively doing nothing. If you are wandering aimlessly across the world like the space pirates did in Talon 4, you're not making the progress that Samus herself would make. I am of the mindset that that particular critique has it's a pretty fair critique to make. I personally believe that the endgame hunt is definitely fun, showing off all of the different abilities that Samus has gained throughout the run, but it doesn't really leave much to be. It leaves much to be desired. Now, the other day, I was conversing with a friend of mine, and pieces of information kind of came together with the varying results. Um, the first major thing that we came across was that interpretations of information is very weird. Um, Context-wise, I was trying to figure out the exact temperature of Samus's plasma beam. Because if we can have that exact temperature, we have a means of gauging just how strong the plasma beam actually is. And I focused in on the word incinerate, which in our world, a municipal incinerator is approximately 1,000 to 1,200 degrees Celsius. The other side of things was my friend focused in on plasma, which is sitting at about 6,400 degrees Celsius. A very significant difference. And so, knowing that there is this wide range, I suppose it does come up to interpretation as to how you want to look at it. Ultimately, either version of events could be accurate because they are going to do much the same thing. but it's interesting to note how open-ended the franchise is in its information in and of itself. Because try as I might, I haven't been able to find an exact temperature for it. Which is why my video analyzing Samus's strength, just as it is, has been so long or so far out. Anywho. What I like about this, I suppose, this situation is that the Ing are shown to be aggressive. They are pack creatures. They definitely despise Samus. They have no interest in actually leading a healthy or helpful life when it comes to building others up. They show a hive mind mentality, like bees, wasps. Their entire ideology is for the emperor, for their king, queen, whichever it is. Now, if I had to make a guess, I would say that the Emperor Ing was perhaps a phase Ing that came in contact with the light of Aether, which got it to be, shall we say, morph and become the beast we know it as in Metroid Prime 2. Conjecture. There's no definitive statement on it, but it is something of note. These guys really don't like this laser, and unfortunately, because I'm out of ammunition, I'm really not doing much to these guys. Other thing about these is they have enough of a mentality and self-awareness to try to hide the keys of each area. I like this about the game. It makes them more dangerous, if that makes sense. This isn't just some nameless entity, it's not just some empty void that Samus is challenging. This is a creature of intelligence. This is a creature that knows its worth and knows what is best and worst for it as a creature, as a species. And that's terrifying. Because the only other creature that comes close to that level of intellect in Prime 2 are the Luminoth and Dark Samus herself. Other thing I like about this is that the world itself has a duality to it. The light and dark worlds exist as two sides of the same coin. And the thing about it that I enjoy is that your first time through each section of the world, you're expected to be playing as Samus, who is, for all intents and purposes, not at her best. You get through the first section, you say, oh yeah, moving on, and then what? What comes next? Not a whole heck of a lot. You get your upgrades, you gain access to the dark world, and you go through the area again. A corrupted, sinister area where the very air deals damage to you. You are in constant danger in the dark world. And yet, at no point in time do I ever feel that the dark world is outside of the realm of my control. It's simply just there. It exists as part of the world, in and of itself. It's got a lot more weight to it than just, oh, it's there. It has its very existence is a threat to the world and the universe at large. Now, I alluded to this or mentioned it in one of my earlier videos, one of the first I probably made for this channel, that Samus in Prime 2 has a habit of going above and beyond the call of duty. Nowhere is that more evident than in Prime 2. Technically, assuming Samus wasn't marooned, she would have absolutely no problem leaving once discovering that the Galactic Federation troopers she was trying to save had fallen. But she doesn't. And we don't expect that Samus would. Rather, we have this innate understanding that Samus will do whatever is possible for the well-being of the planet she is on, regardless of whether or not she is aware initially of what state that planet is in. Now, this might seem a little bit backwards. She never actually learns what the state of Aether was when she first arrived. And upon discovering that the Federation troopers had fallen, she kept going forward. She didn't search for a way back to the ship while it continued its self-healing protocols. Instead, she kept digging. There was a nagging feeling, a problem that Samus felt she could solve. And rightly so, in the form of the Ing invasion. She asked for no bounty. She had no issue stepping up to the plate to save this planet. And it's very in character for Samus to do this. Metroid Dread does much the same thing, where Samus is in a position of strength. The bounty for her mission too low for her particular skill set and the needs of the mission, and yet she takes it regardless because she knows that she was the only one capable of dealing with said mission. It sounds ridiculous at first glance, but Samus is never truly in it for the bounty. She's always in it for the altruism. She's the galactic protector. The bounty just kind of helps keep the ship fueled, if that makes sense. Now, I personally am of the mindset that Samus is actually a very strong force, or very strong mind. And I say this with a little bit of the an understanding of how the suit works. If at any point in time Samus loses focus, she loses the suit. This is evidenced in the game that shall not be named. But it's also kind of been a recurring theme in Super Metroid. Samus starts with effectively nothing. The games where she loses everything and there's an actual reason for it, such as Fusion, Dread, Prime 1, 2, the reason boils down to, at some point or another, Samus lost focus. Samus lost her focus when getting thrown against a wall due to an explosion, and her suit malfunctioned. She lost her focus when getting attacked by numerous Ing after witnessing Dark Samus for the first time, and the panic that set in, realizing that she was unable to truly hold back this threat as she was equipped. The third, Fusion. Okay, yeah, she lost her suit because of, well, she had it surgically removed. It's very similar could be said for Prime 3. The one that gets me most, though, is Dread. In Metroid Dread, Samus goes in fully kitted out. She was ready to go. The Varia suit was prepped, and upon arrival, Samus got down there and almost had amnesia with how terrified, how out of sorts she was. Something went very, very wrong, and she had very little to show for it. I'm just going to speed this up a little bit here because I don't think you want to wait for 3 minutes while I wait for my health to recoup. The key's in place. And now it is time to battle Amorbus. So, anywho, Samus being scared or dealing with that loss, that fear, is not exactly uncommon. It is simply that in some games she shows or hides it better. I believe that Samus is courageous and is the type of person who would go above and beyond the call of duty just because she can. But I believe that in some way, shape, or form, there's a lot hiding beneath the surface for this character. We know she's caring. We know she goes above and beyond. This has never been in question. But the only time that she's really shown any form of weakness aside from a lack of weaponry has been in a game that was not well received. Therefore, I do believe there's something bubbling beneath the surface. What remains to be seen. So, what I like about this boss is that it is functionally the same as Prime 1's Flagra. You have a central location that has numerous targets surrounding it. In this case, the surrounding targets are the Amorbus themselves, jumping in and out of the earth, and in their giant sweeping arc, Samus trying to destroy their armor. I love this aspect about this boss battle, because this enemy is not the type that is so easily beaten. Once the armor is removed, Amorbus hides. It knows it's vulnerable, and it attempts to gain a more advantageous position by gaining power from the dark orb in the center of the arena. From there, Samus can destroy the headpiece, the armor that it holds. And that headpiece, when broken, stuns it, allowing Samus to deal damage to it via a Morph Ball Bomb. What makes this such a unique way about it is that there are very few bosses that actually utilize the Morph Ball Bombs to their fullest. And this is 2D and 3D games included. Okay, armor's up. Oh yeah, right, the laser beam. This might be a problem. The laser I'm not entirely sure if there's a weakness to the laser itself. I want to say no, but if there is, let me know. But Amorbus is at this point in time attempting to prevent Samus from gaining much ground. And I'll admit it's doing a really good job of holding me back this time. Because I kind of struggle with this boss at times. It's not as bad as, let's say, Quadraxis, but due to the length of the battle that I'm expecting, Amorbus actually does quite a lot. The issue is that I get knocked out of the arena, and it becomes a double, or I get knocked out of my little safety bubbles, which is a nice touch for a game that is meant to be harder. The little safety bubbles make it so that you have a comfort zone, but it also makes Samus an easy target. It's something that I don't think ever gets talked about, that Samus has that, I suppose, weakness or safety bubble that she has to remain in within the Dark World. I don't know. Anywho, the second of 6 is down. 1/3 of the morph ball damaging is done. Anywho, and phase 3. I think I'm gonna change up the plan a little bit next rotation and focus in exclusively on one head. See if that speeds up the process a little bit, but also prevents damage for a longer span of time. Okay, all my gear updated. All my weapons are near max ammunition. So I think I'm in good shape here. I hope. So I kind of have a question for those out there. Do you believe that what do you believe would happen if the Dark World expanded? What would happen if Samus didn't arrive on Aether in time? Because Samus being here, let's face it, is the reason why the Ing go extinct at the end of Prime 2. But theoretically, if Samus wasn't there, what would it look like? My personal opinion of it is that if the Ing got the final piece of energy from Light Aether, it really wouldn't change much at first. They're not a spacefaring race. Heck, the Luminoth aren't really a spacefaring race. But it does mean that the phazon corruption of Dark Aether would be more noticeable the world or the universe over. The other aspect of it is that I believe if there were any more travelers that made it to Dark Aether, or made it to the reformed Dark Aether, that there would be a lot more, what's the word? It would be a much more dangerous galaxy, and while I don't believe that the Ing would really be able to create spacefaring travel, the fact that they have access to Dark Samus, who theoretically would have access to Samus's ship, means that they might have a means of galactic conquest over time. I believe that they are, over time and with a little bit of evolution on their side, there is a possibility that they would take over or join forces with other groups to become a more dangerous galactic race. That's just conjecture. It's unfortunately, I don't foresee there being much more that comes of it. Pardon me. Yeah. Let me know what your theory on what the Ing's galactic conquest would look like. We're going into theoretical territory, so there's absolutely no wrong answers or nothing outside of the realm of possibility. It's all fair game. Amorbus is down to one head, which is basically back to phase 1. And I think that's pretty fitting. Amorbus is the type of boss that gets stronger and simultaneously weaker over time. The first stage is Amorbus at its weakest. Stage 2, Amorbus is stronger in that it has multiples. But once those multiples are defeated, it becomes weaker. And so on and so forth. Now, I admit this. This power-up I love from a gameplay perspective. From a world-building perspective, however, it kind of, well, from a gameplay perspective, I like it. From a design perspective, I'm iffy on it. In my opinion, the Dark Suit is my least favorite designed suit. But I believe that its unique design was intentional. The Dark Suit is very... how do I put it? It doesn't look like standard Chozo tech for a reason. It is Luminoth technology slapped on top of Chozo tech. The Luminoth technology was designed exclusively within the last 50-ish years to allow the Luminoth to traverse the Dark World without dealing with as much of the negative effects of the Dark World. Ergo, why Samus goes from losing 5 health per second down to losing 1 health per second. Which is a unbelievably good bonus to have. The other side of it, however, is that it's not a perfect bond between the Chozo and Luminoth technology. It doesn't quite fit. And so that bulkier, sharper, shoddier, or tacked on look that some of the design elements have are because of an improper integration of that technology. The light suit is with the addition of the light of Aether, the power source of the planet. The light suit functions far superior to the dark suit and looks far superior. In my opinion, the light suit is effectively the dark suit at its peak power, at its absolute best. And I don't think that's very hard to state or very out there. It's effectively the proper integration of those same elements. There we go. Anywho, with everything said and done, I have one more stop to make. Well, two. The first is we gotta head to the light world. The second is saving the game because it is currently 10:35 p.m. I'm exhausted and I don't think I can keep going much longer tonight. Quite a shame, really. But that just means that next time, look forward to finishing off Agon, and we're gonna head into Torvus Bog next week. Anywho, with all of that said, if you're feeling interested, drop a like, leave subscribe. We'll catch you next time. In all honesty, I think Samus could definitely benefit from a bigger game. I almost wonder how much more they're going to put into Prime 4 than they did in 1, 2, and 3. Technically, 1, 2, and 3 only had like 100 upgrades, but the design time that they've used on 4 suggests that it's going to be far, far bigger. Or at least just, you know, better designed. Until next time, have a good one.